Hello everybody, this is Tazitis and welcome back. And I hope you guys are liking the story because it's supposed to be infectious. Sorry, I still haven't figured out how to quite say that and everything else, but I'm trying to make it work. Anyway, a couple of things before we get started. One, this literally takes place after the incident with the FanFiction and everything, so we're literally picking up right from there, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get this chapter out. I've literally been trying to record it, and it's been very difficult and everything else and all. But I hope it's worth it in the end. I personally think it's one of the best chapters and all. Anyway, this is literally after what happened to FanFiction, and the image above is not mine, it's somebody else's. It's literally what I thought would be happening to her as she was going through the thing, and I thought it was just a perfect representation of what Crystal was going through, especially after the thing. Anyway, let's get into it. Crystal stayed there hunched. Writes the original owner. Crystal stayed there hunched over for a long time, feeling absolutely helpless, wondering if anyone like her would be in such a horrifying and embarrassing moment in her life. Why and what was she to do? How was she to live the rest of her life like this? But Zach stayed there with her the whole time, comforting her, telling her that it would be okay. They would figure it out together, and after a while, Crystal cried herself out and managed to straighten up, enough for Zach to help her walk back to the mansion. But she wouldn't go inside. So Zach had to go and tell everybody that Crystal was not feeling well, and Zach was taking her home. When Zach came to put his arm around her and put her head on his chest, he came covering her face up with one arm and cradling her shoulders with his other. He walked her home slowly, sort of covering up her eyes so she couldn't see the way out, but also holding her close and comforting her in a silent way. Crystal couldn't really remember the full journey home. Before she knew it, Zach had somehow gotten them both into Crystal's room and was taking off her shoes and tucking her into bed. Kissing the top of her forehead and smoothing her hair back, he leaned his face close to her and looked her in the eyes and told her, "Crystal, I am so sorry that happened. I'm glad I got there in time to stop something worse from happening than it did." Zach closed his eyes tight and let out a breath, preparing himself for what he was about to say. Yes. That's why I didn't want you to even go near that mansion in the first place, or even be around Sally or any of them. I tried my best to keep them away from you, and to always be around somewhere in case you needed me. But with my duties as Slenderman, it was impossible for me to be around. It's impossible for me to always be around to keep you safe. I'm sorry to tell you this, Crystal, but I can't guarantee that something like that won't happen again, because it might. I am so sorry, Crystal. I can't. My family is dangerous, and our monsters, they can do cruel things sometimes, and but I'll always try to be there to help you avoid these situations as much as possible, to train you to be as strong as a proxy or low-rank imposter need to be around them. I can help you be able to avoid and stay away from situations like this, how to handle things before they get to a bad place. But I can't tell you that bad things won't ever happen again, because as long as you're my girlfriend or alive, this will always be a danger, and so will I. This is how our lives are, and I fully understand if you say you can't handle it and don't want it. He lowered his head. He lowered his head, and so he couldn't see his face. Believe me, I didn't want this kind of life. I have often wondered if death is just better. He shook his head, still lowered, but then looked back up into her eyes. I just want you to know that in all this time I never lied to you about how I feel. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but I've really grown to care about you a lot. I just wanted to let you know that I do care about you, Crystal, and I'm sorry I got you into this mess. I never meant for things to go this way. He stood up from being leaned over and turned towards the window, but stopped in the middle of the room. Without turning around, he said, Just know that whatever you choose, I understand. I understand. And I'll remember you." He's turned slightly over his shoulder to look her in the eye. I will always remember you. I will always remember you. He turned back, walking over to the window, and jumped out of sight, leaving Crystal to cry and wonder, what in the world, what was she to do? The next day wasn't much better. Crystal still felt the raw fear of what had happened at the Creepypasta mansion. What had almost happened there with offenderman, and the raw pain of what was having to keep living like this and deal with this experience over and over again could be. She also thought about Zach, and how in this beginning, how she had been so afraid of him, and now she had started to really love him. Had liked him, and may even love him. May? Who was she kidding? Of course she loved him. Almost since the beginning she felt the bond. She felt the bond with Zach and had loved him almost since the beginning. But what about their lives? What about Crystal's family? What was there for them? What choice did she have? To live a life with Zach and his monster family to torture her? Or to say that she didn't want to be Zach's girlfriend and break Zach's heart and hope that Slenderman might just kill her and leave her family behind? Is it really worth the risk? Crystal just needed some peace. Crystal really just needed some peace. Some place for safety. She couldn't find any place where safety and peace would be for her. But then she remembered her family's church, the church her family goes to, and decided to get some peace there. Walk there for peace. She walked into the church and sat down in the back pews and just relaxed in. She was just trying to find peace and safety as she let the protection of the church and the peace of the church flood her. As the preacher talked to the people in the building, Crystal closed her eyes and laid her head on the back, just listening to the talking, not paying attention much, until the preacher had said a quote from the Bible that really stood out to her. Blessed is the man that stands, who remains steadfast in trial. When he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Life is unfair. Life is unfair. God understands this, and he knows that there will be times in your life when life throws you down and you don't have answers. That is when God is at his closest, so that you both may have victory and suffering together. God will not leave you nor forsaken you. He will go through the trials you face with you, suffer along with you, loving you truly unconditionally and with an understanding that only God can have. We as humans, it is impossible for us to understand just how big and unconditional God's love really is, and we must never forget just how powerful that love is. If we are facing difficult situations in our lives and need answers, it is possible to only take a moment to remind yourself of your own loved ones and how much they mean to you. Even at our worst, God is with us, and we are never, ever truly alone. Even though we may feel alone and abandoned in times of need, we must remember that is when God is at his closest, for you would never holler at somebody that was right next to you. Now, life will always be hard, feel hard, hurt hard, and cause you to doubt and question and fear things about yourself, cause you to fear what might happen to yourself and those around you. But you must always remember that you're never facing it alone. Even at your weakest, you are given the power to wipe out the devil's whole army by yourself. But you are not at your lowest. You are not alone, and you must not let your fears or people or uncomfortable situations hold you back from God's love or spreading the love that you have for those around you. Because all it does is take away from this life that you are destined to have and chosen for. So I tell you all, have courage, have faith, have patience in yourself through these trying times of life bending hard on you. Have faith and patience and love for God to help you work together with him through what troubles you're going through. Be patient and kind to those around you, even when it is hard. Remember, strength comes in many forms. God gives his toughest battles to his most important soldiers. Be strong, and don't let hardship be a negative. Rather, let it be a challenge to take up arms and do something special and kind for you and for others. Let us pray. Now let us pray to God for guidance and peace and love of our hearts and love and those of our loved ones. Crystal straightened up and joined in the final prayer of the day. Afterwards, she stood up and slowly walked out, kind of in a daze, but it was a good daze. It was a good kind of daze. After that church visit, she felt a lot better. The preacher had talked a lot about anxiety and stuff and difficult situations. Some of it had unfortunately gone over her head, but some of what he said really stood out to her, and she knew that the preacher was right. Crystal wasn't weak or alone. Even if she did feel scared and alone, she wasn't the only one in the situation that was hurting or was afraid of how things were going to turn out. So was Zach. He was trying to put on a brave face for her. For both of them here. And she couldn't just leave him standing there all by himself, not when this affects both of them. Plus, what choice was dying and leaving him and her family if they were still alive after Slenderman was done with her anyways? Now, don't get her wrong, this was still a messed up situation with dangerous people and things that she might have to spend the rest of her life surviving But instead of letting doubt and fear control her, she just needed to be strong and better for the troubles that were bound to come. She had to learn to be a good girl and a survivor. She had to do this. She had to do it for her and for Zach, because she did love Zach, and she did want to be a part of his world, kind of. She wanted to be stronger for Zach, for herself, for God. But first, she needed help. She really needed to get to work. But she needed to find somebody first. Okay, guys, that's the end of this chapter. I really hope you guys liked it and everything else and all. I really needed, like, a transition and everything else. To me, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to her and everything. And as a Christian myself, this is where I do think. If you guys would have had something else and all, well, I'm sorry, I guess. But anyway, I'm sorry. I just couldn't understand. I wanted basically the transition, if else and all, from like her going from being weak to her actually going from being a warrior and everything, or going to be stronger, Crystal being stronger and everything. And this was the best period and everything else. This was the best thing and all, from her going from a horrible experience and everything, and the reality of something terrible happening to her every time she's around, because I did not want to do what. And that's not saying anything wrong about the other creepypasta stories or anything else. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Just gonna put that out there. There's nothing wrong with them at all. But I found that there was a lot of people that really got criticized and everything else. And they shouldn't have gotten criticized, because, you know, a story is a story and everything. About kind of like romanticizing villains and everything, and romanticizing serial killers and stuff like that and everything. And a lot of times, most time and everything and all, when you romanticize that and everything, you forget that sometimes when you're around monsters and everything, or around serial killers, that these are bad people. Like, in the story, it's fine if you think it's all pretend, but sometimes, you know, we forget this, like, these are bad people. These are people that are going to hurt you. They hurt other people, they're not going to just not hurt you. So I kind of didn't want to romanticize that, so I kind of put that in the story and thing. But that doesn't mean that's, like, given the circumstance and everything, all her and Zach are in love and do care about each other and all. So I kind of wanted to, like, put the reality of something, like, it's dangerous and everything, there's, like, real risk here and everything, but that doesn't mean, like, if you love somebody, you shouldn't just, like, anyway, I wanted to, like, put that in the thing, and I didn't want it to just be, like, oh, sugarcoat that and everything else. So I wanted her to go from being, like, scared little girl and everything and like, really have a moment of, like, impact or something. Not exactly something bad happening to her, but something like the reality of her situation really crashing on her, and then, like, her going for a depressed period, and then, like, being able to go into strength. And this was the best way that I knew how to write that up and everything and do that. Anyway, the next chapter will be out as soon as possible, and as of right now, I'm currently writing the very endings of this book and everything. So, after I get done with this, I'll get to the chapter 23, so I'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe and give me a like down below. Give me a like and a thumbs up down below if you guys really like the story. Chapter 23